Today I'm going to show you how to roast a whole duck, and we're going to make it with a beautiful 5-spice and orange glaze. It's a perfect alternative for a Christmas dinner, roast dinner, or if you just fancy learning how to roast whole duck. So without further ado, here's everything you need. Before we begin, preheat your oven to 160 degrees Celsius fan or 180 conventional. And then we can look at our duck, and the first thing we need to do is make sure it's as dry as possible. So pat it dry with some kitchen paper. Now there's a couple of things you can do ahead of time to help achieve this dry skin, which will help it crisp up nicer in the oven. And that's to take it out of the packaging 1 or 2 days before and leave it to sit in the fridge on a plate, and that'll just help dry the skin out. Even better if you can hang it in your fridge, not many people can, then that'll dry it all the way around nicely. If you don't have time for that, don't worry about it. And I'll be honest with you, I haven't done that today because I've just picked up this duck this morning. So once you've patted it dry everywhere, then we need to remove the wing tips. There's not much meat on them and they can catch and burn in the oven very easily. So just find where the joint is and you should be able to cut straight through there. Next, look for any excess skin and then you can simply just cut that away. And finally, this is an optional step, but you can score the skin just in a crisscross pattern, being very careful not to cut through to the flesh, only the skin, using a very sharp knife. This just helps to render out the fat nicely and helps it all crisp up very well in the oven. You can keep the wing tips for stocks. They can go with the giblets and the neck that you will have removed earlier. They usually come with the duck. And you can keep the fat to render down and make your very own duck fat. If you want to learn how to do those, I have a video on the channel. It's a members only video for how to break down a whole duck and render your own duck fat from the skin. So with our duck now prepped, wash your hands before making this next step. We're going to do a quick 5-spice seasoning. Very simple, that's going to go inside the cavity. And all you have to do is mix 1 teaspoon of salt with half a teaspoon of Chinese 5-spice. And we'll also cut 1 orange into chunks to place inside. Sprinkle your seasoning generously inside the cavity and then place in the orange. And next we'll lift the legs up and tie them together. This just helps to keep it in a nice neat shape while roasting. Next we'll place our duck onto a wire rack over a tray and then into the preheated oven for the first 30 minutes of cooking. Make sure to have a good clean down and we'll move on to the next step. So now that the duck is roasting, we're going to make a very simple little glaze that will go over the top. And all you need to do is place 20 milliliters of soy sauce into 80 grams of runny honey. Then squeeze in the juice of 1 orange and add 1 teaspoon of Chinese 5-spice. Mix until well combined and leave to one side until ready to use. So now the first 30 minutes of cooking is done. And the skin will have all tightened up and dried out a little bit more, and the fat will have started to render out. By the way, the reason it's on a rack as well is so the air can circulate all the way under and reach every part of the duck. Next we're going to spoon over some of our glaze and we're going to brush it using a pastry brush until it's all completely covered. We're not going to use all the glaze because we'll repeat this step a couple of times before the end of cooking. So just enough to coat it with a nice thin layer. This already smells absolutely amazing. Just make sure you coat every little bit that you can see, and then we'll place it back into the oven for a further 30 minutes. So after another 30 minutes, we're going to take it from the oven and repeat exactly the same steps again with the glaze. But this time, when we place it back into the oven, we're going to cook it for a further 15 minutes before glazing again. So another 15 minutes has now passed. We're going to go ahead and glaze it again and then place it back in for a further 15 minutes. Remove it from the oven again, and you guessed it, we're going to glaze it one more time before placing it back into the oven for a further 15 minutes of cooking time. With the remaining glaze, you can place it into a saucepan and reduce it down until it becomes a little bit more sticky, which will be perfect for the final glaze once your duck is completely cooked. So that's how we make a beautiful whole roast duck with an orange, honey and 5-spice glaze. Let me know how yours turns out. Watch these videos next if you want more easy recipes. Hit subscribe if you haven't already, and I'll see you in the next video.